Welcome, everyone. Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee. This is June 20th, 74 degrees in beautiful downtown Cleveland. 1 year and 1 day ago, we won our first title since 1964. So in hopes of a new one this year, let us have the roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Ms. Baker. Here. Mr. Tuma. Here. Mr. Harrison. Here. Ms. Conwell.
Here.
There is a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that Councilman Miller is in attendance.
Welcome, Mr. Miller, as usual. Is there a public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
In your packet, you have the minutes of May 2nd. If they're in order, I'll accept a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. We're going to jump around a little bit here because we have some big items I want to put at the end of the agenda. I asked Brandy Carney to come give us an update on 911. Mrs. Carney, thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for allowing me to go first here. Brandy Carney, Director of Public Safety and Justice Services. I just wanted to provide a brief update. I met with all of you summer of last year, and Council had asked that we look to implement countywide text to 911 in Cuyahoga County. So I do have an update for all of you on that project that myself and the CCOM staff have been working on. Text to 911 in Cuyahoga County will go live on July 1st, so in less than a month. Text messages sent anywhere in Cuyahoga County will be answered by one of two dispatch centers. If you're in the city of Cleveland, Cleveland Dispatch will answer that text message. If you're anywhere else in Cuyahoga County, CCOMS, the county dispatch, will answer that text message. Cuyahoga is the 4th county in Ohio to be able to accept text messages. All the major cell phone carriers will work immediately. We're going to work on a soft launch, so it'll be fully operational July 1st. We're going to roll out a media campaign later this year. Surprisingly, what we found out is there's tens, even close to 100 of very small carriers. And so we want to ensure that all of those appropriately route the calls. Again, all the major carriers have already been, we've tested with all of those, but in order to ensure some of those smaller carriers, many of which we've probably hadn't heard of when I saw the list, that's kind of the reason for the initial soft launch. A couple quick items. If you're in a roaming situation, the text will not be able to be sent, but you will receive a text bounce back, and it'll say, text messages cannot be sent to 911, please call. It's important to know, and we will put this out in the media campaign, that it's always important, if you can call 911, you should. Text is only for certain situations. Obviously, the deaf, hard of hearing community, Cuyahoga County, we have over 25,000. So that's great for, obviously, that group. If you're in an emergency situation, such as an active shooter or a domestic violence, something where you're not able to speak on the phone, something like text to 911 is a great resource or alternative for you. And then finally, if there's a very large-scale emergency, like we've all seen, the towers go down, you're not able to call, but text messages, SMS still go through, that at least then you can still have an opportunity to reach emergency resources. So just really quickly, again, you'll call, you just hit 911 on your phone. It'll go to one of the two dispatch centers. If it's somewhere outside in Cuyahoga County, we will text back and forth with the individual in Cuyahoga County, and we will pick up the phone and relay that information to the appropriate city so that they dispatch their police or fire resources. We are looking on a different solution. It's taking a little longer. This is kind of interim. It's a more technical solution. I hope to have that in place by within 2018, and that will the text messages will go directly to one of the 30 dispatch centers in Cuyahoga County rather than just two of us. But even when that's in place, the person on the phone that needs the help shouldn't see a difference. It's just updating the technology. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Thank you. Questions? Anyone? Mr. Harrison?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. So for folks who, let's say, live in Cleveland, because Cleveland run their own dispatch center. And so if someone uses a cell phone to call 911, does it go to Cleveland or does it go to the CCON.
If they're in the city of Cleveland, it will in fact go to Cleveland Dispatch.
We'll go to Cleveland.
Correct. Now, if you're on a border, it's different because they still use the towers, and so there's a sector that they use. But if you're anywhere inside the inner city limits, it will go to Cleveland Dispatch.
Will the soft launch also include the city of Cleveland as well?
Yes, they're on board. They've been working through training their dispatchers, and they're on board with the July 1st date. That's kind of been what's, it wasn't just us at the county, it was also Cleveland and us working together, and so it's all of us.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Ms. Conwell? No one? Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. This is exciting news. We never get big splashes in the newspaper, but Ms. Carney's always on the ground running with all of this. And if it wasn't for her and some of her team, we would look pretty bad here. And certainly our 911 and dispatch wouldn't be what it is today. And I think that is dramatically upgraded from when we started. So we thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Okay, and we're gonna skip around here. So if you follow along with me, because of a special request, we're gonna take 2017-0114. That's number E. It's letter E.
Resolution number 2017-0114, making awards on requisition number 37638 to various providers in a total amount not to exceed $3 million for residential treatment services for the period 2/1/2017 through 1/31/2019.
Ms. Lippman, on a special request, we move it from last to second. Best I could do, but it was a bright sunny day, so I knew you were coming in. I was in Mr. Bove's office earlier and looking down to the southeast, and this gleaming, beautiful building out on the horizon was shining brighter than anything, which was the juvenile court. And I just knew you were on your way.
Well, even snow, sleet, rain, I'll come anyways.
And you have, and we greatly appreciate that. What do you have for us today?
Good afternoon. So today we have our new residential master contract. This is for our regular residential services for juvenile court youth. It's again, we have 17 providers that are on the master agreement. This does have a February 1st start, and I want to explain a little bit what has transpired, why we are here, because we do pride trying to get things done earlier on time. We actually were on pace to have this included in the first agenda in February, and then we were notified by the county law department that there was a new OAC that required us to use the state's contract format and not the county's contract format, so we had to pull it from the agenda, which actually, it got stuck in MyPro before that because it was so many documents that it had to be manually pushed through. It was kind of a little bit of a hassle. So we had to pull it from the agenda and then work through this new format that the state was telling us we had to use, which didn't include a lot of the requirements that the county has for their contracts. So we had to work with the state and the county law department to come up with a solution to work through a contract that would work for a master agreement. So that took us about a month. And what came out, believe it or not, was a 600-page document. And I don't say that tongue in cheek. I mean, it is literally 600 pages long. So that then went into MyPro, which of course didn't move really smoothly through because MyPro doesn't really like 600-page documents. So here we are. But as far as the services that we're providing, it is the regular residential services that we have been providing for youth that are court involved.
No one knew.
Oh, about the new format?
These are all the same providers.
Oh, there's a couple which are new to us. There's one called Lakeside for Children, Lakeside Academy, and which is a provider that's been around for a long time. They just haven't contracted with us. I'm not sure if they contract with DCFS or not. And then Star Commonwealth, which I believe does contract with DCFS but never has contracted with the court before. And I think the rest of these are the usual suspects, yes.
Right. Notice I haven't said anything about Glen Mills. I'm getting better in my age. I saw a show on TV, Stonehouse Revival, and they did one in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah?
I almost felt like becoming a youth and knocking someone over the head so I could go out there and live.
Oh, I've never been, so.
It's gorgeous.
I hear it's quite beautiful,
Absolutely
yes.
gorgeous. Any questions for Ms. Lippman? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, and thank you for your work. I guess, just a couple matter-of-fact questions. This is a 2-year contract?
It's a 2-year contract. The $3 million that's here is the 1-year amount.
Oh, okay.
That's the 1-year amount, yes.
Even though it says 2/1/17 to 1/31/19?
Right, so the way it's written in the contract is it's a 2-year time period, but we only allocate the dollars that we have in our appropriations for 2017 at this time. But we say in there that it's an amount for a 12-month, and then we'll do an amendment. So we'll probably be back here sooner rather than later. We'll probably be back here maybe in December or January to do the amendment, just to add the additional dollars for the next year.
May I continue? An additional $3 million then probably for the next round?
Probably. It's going to depend on the next budget cycle and what's in the budget, as well as sort of how we're utilizing the money that we have. I know that the judges are trying to limit the number of youth that they're sending to residential to keep those costs down. So they have sort of soft ceilings for each courtroom that they're looking at. So that's actually helped a lot as well.
Just one final. Are these usually allocated by need? They don't get, it's not divided by 17, the $3 million.
No. And that's why we do the master contract. So in the past, we would have 17 separate contracts, and then we would come up with an amount for each provider. What happened then is that you don't know what's going to walk in the door, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of kids that need to go to this provider. Right. So we would actually have to do all these amendments and reduce this amount and increase that amount. So we came up with this master contract concept, which they're all listed and signed on one contract, so that there's not dollars that are sort of allocated to each vendor. So we can move the dollars without having to go through an amendment process.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair to Ms. Lipford, what would be the juvenile division's oversight of the 2 new programs?
So we do have probably a pretty robust quality assurance and monitoring program. Now, I do know that they've actually gone to at least one of these for a site visit already. I think they went up to Lakeside. They once a year will go out and do sort of a thorough monitoring of the service provider, which is everything from the facility, the physical facility, to sort of their treatment protocol, the training of their staff, their food service, their sort of everything that they look at. They'll talk to staff people, they'll talk to youth, just to sort of be sure that the services that they're getting are sort of what we're contracting for, and they'll look at the youth coming out and see, how many successful terminations there are, just sort of keep a handle. So that's usually annually that they'll go to each of the providers.
But that's to each of them. So I was just wondering if there was something separate that your division did in regards to when we're opening up to new people.
You mean to the new providers?
To the new providers.
So we went through an RFP process, so they did respond to the RFP, and we looked at sort of all of that. The new providers that we brought on board, I think that there might have been either some county involvement or maybe, the court or something, that they looked at those providers, or maybe there are other courts in Ohio that had utilized them in the past, or the Department of Youth Services. So there was some sort of knowledge of what they did. They weren't sort of picked blindly.
Okay, and I think you did mention that the Star Commonwealth was part of that HHS.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that, they contract with DCFS, and they have for a number of years, so they're known to the county.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Who did we lose that these two replaced? Do you recall?
Who did we lose? We lost Carrington Youth Academy. Tri-State, which I don't think we ever sent a youth to in the past 2 or 4 years. So,
Effectively, no one was sent there.
yeah, no one was sent there. They didn't have space available. They didn't accept our youth. They didn't meet the criteria, so we dropped them.
What about Carrington?
Carrington, I believe, was dropped because they really weren't meeting a lot of the goals and the treatment protocols that were established. We do continue to contract with Carrington for our shelter care services, so we do utilize them. I think that's our only contract with Carrington right now.
So for this particular service that you guys provide, they just didn't meet the benchmarks for this particular service.
They didn't, and there's sort of every so often there's a number of complaints that come out of the Carrington facility that it sort of came to a point where we're like, maybe we shouldn't continue on with them since we have all these other options.
Sure. Did they apply at all? Do you recall?
Did Carrington apply?
They did answer this.
Yes, Yes, they did respond to this proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Just to follow up on Councilman Harrison's question, so Carrington was dropped. Did that review, I know you said you got complaints, did that come from actually the physical review that you guys go out
Actually,
and do?
we got complaints from youth that were there. And maybe even parents, but I know there were some complaints from youth.
Okay, did they reach out directly to you, or when it was at a visit that you guys do your oversight?
When was
The complaints.
When were the complaints?
Yeah, are they phoned in or when you're actually on site and you see the youth?
No. I think well, a little bit of both. I mean, sometimes when you sit and you talk to youth confidentially, they might share some of that information. Other times there have been youth, once they get out of the facility, they'll actually maybe tell their probation officer or tell somebody else who's part of the court system, I had this problem. A lot of times they don't like talking while they're actually at the facility because that is a little bit uncomfortable for them. So they'll wait till they're actually released from the facility before they would say something.
One final question. Carrington's located again?
East Cleveland.
Okay.
Anything further? I notice on the time you'll probably want this moved forward quickly.
As always.
Well, this one is, yet again, not your fault, more on our side than yours. So I'll accept a motion for Resolution 2017-0114 for second reading under suspension. All in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good seeing you again.
Enjoy the sunshine.
We're going to jump to A, Resolution 2017-0103. Janine, if you would read that.
Resolution number 2017-0103, authorizing a purchase and sale agreement with City of Cleveland in the amount of $9,250,000 for property commonly known as the City of Cleveland Police Headquarters, located at 1300 Ontario Street, Cleveland.
Okay. We were informed late yesterday that this is not ready to go, which is a little disappointing to me, but we want to have it right the first time before we do move forward. Mr. Dever is here. Mr. Dever, I don't need you to comment, but we will schedule this for next Tuesday, 11:30 a.m. If it's not ready then, I'm not going to be rushing into this. So I know you're meeting tomorrow morning and you feel confident this will be taken care of tomorrow. We will, and again, I don't want you to comment until we really have this thing locked down.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
11:30 Tuesday. If there are any problems that we have to cancel that, I don't anticipate seeing this until well into July.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll now jump to C, Resolution 2017-0112.
Resolution number 2017-0112, authorizing a lease agreement with City of Bedford Heights in the amount of $10 for lease of the Bedford Heights Jail located at 5661 Perkins Road, Bedford Heights, for operation of county jail facilities for the period 7/1/2017 through 6/30/2027.
Mr. Bova.
Chairman Gallagher, Public Safety Committee, Frank Bova. This one would be partnered with 0111 also. They're so sort of co-joined. I don't know if you want to do them at the same time or not. It's a Cleveland prisoner deal. This is part of that deal.
What's your preference?
I would prefer to do them all at once.
Okay.
Because this one's pretty self-explanatory to make this deal go through.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bova, Mr. Gallagher. Do you want me to read it into the record?
You know what? I want to hold that till last, so
Okay.
if you don't mind,
No problem.
we'll hold that. We'll move on D, and then we'll go into those. Is that okay?
That's fine. Thank you.
So if we could have Resolution 2017-0113.
Resolution number 2017-0113, authorizing a revenue generating agreement with City of Cleveland, Cleveland Municipal Court in the amount of $1,922,185 for legal services for indigent persons for the period 1/1/2017 through 12/31/2017.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mark Budzar, Administrator of the Office of the Public Defender. As most of you are aware, the Cuyahoga County Public Defender's Office provides services to the City of Cleveland Municipal Court. City of Cleveland does not have a Public Defender's Office. We, in a sense, contract with them in the amount of $1.922 million to provide those services. They, in turn, reimburse us 100% of those costs. We then charge them a 3% administrative fee, if you will, and at that point becomes a revenue generator. So it essentially costs the county nothing.
Are there questions? Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair, Mr. Butler, you said?
Budzar.
Budzar.
Yep.
What's the 3%? What is that amount that we charge them?
It's around $60,000.
Okay.
That's actually done through the Office of Budget Management.
And we've always charged them that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Miller.
How is the state reimbursement handled on this?
The city is reimbursed 40%. That's the current rate, 2017.
Okay. Okay. And again, looking at the dates, I would assume you want to move this quickly.
That was going to be my next question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If everyone's comfortable, move Resolution 2017-0113 to the full council under second reading suspension.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Janine, if you could read 2017-0111, and then we'll take 111 and 112 together.
Resolution number 2017-0111, authorizing a revenue generating agreement with City of Cleveland for prisoner board and care and other jail services at a per diem rate of $99 and a one-time deposit of $5,603,413.98, effective 4/1/2017.
Thank you. Mr. Bova?
Chairman Gallagher, the Public Safety Committee, thank you for your time today. Several years ago, I stood in front of you as the sheriff of this county, and with a deal that was inherited by us, and we all agreed that it was an unacceptable deal at that time. Today, I come back in front of you with the team, and I believe this deal will be acceptable after our Public Safety Committee reviews it. At this time, I'd like to bring up, first of all, I'd like to thank publicly Sheriff Pinckney and his team, Marty Flask and his team for the negotiations that we've been going on for the last couple of years. I especially want to thank Ken Mills, who's been our lead investigator, and he is going to be presenting today. But first, I'd like to bring up our Chief Deputy, George Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gallagher, committee members. I'm George Taylor. I'm Chief Deputy at the Sheriff's Department. We're here today to give you a presentation on the Cleveland Jail project and its current status. This has been in the making for quite a while with the persistence of Director Bova and Director Mills, and it's also been wholeheartedly supported by Sheriff Pinckney. With that said, I will turn the presentation over to Director Mills, who has the best working knowledge of the Sheriff's Department's project and should be able to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, we were working on this before you were here, weren't we?
Yes, sir. It's been going on for a while, and I'm very happy to be here. I got a short PowerPoint for you. It's basically the same one that I presented to the last council meeting, where I was telling you what was going on, with a little more information in it. Some of the project history we just hit on with the time span. We've been working on this in 13. Discussions with this have been going on since 2007, 2006 between the city and the county. In 13, we actually had a jail regionalization study. We commissioned it. 14, we got the results back that actually said that regionalization would be more efficient for the county, and there's a role for it. At that time, in May of 2004, somewhere around there, we had the original agreement that Chief Bova just mentioned, the $2.3 million, and that went through discussions, and I was a part of that. And I understood the concerns that came out of that. March of 15, about the same time I went over to be the director of the jails, Bedford Heights, and this was kind of unique. Bedford Heights facility went out of business, went out of operations, which I thought presented a pretty unique opportunity for us to change the plan around to meet all of our needs a little better. It's a standalone facility in good shape, and it had capacity. It's one of the newer facilities out there. So I started working on a plan then myself and Mr. Flask to coordinate using that facility instead of taking the House of Corrections or the downtown facility. Back in November of this year, we come to a tentative agreement with the fiscal end of it, how much it would cost, and the concept. And since then, we've been working on getting the details ironed out and getting the approval for it. In June, the city, as you know, had their legislative process approved the contract or the deal with the city. So to get straight to it, the new deal is pretty straightforward. It's and one of the things that Mr. Gallagher that you wanted was to ensure that it didn't cost the county any money up front. So we did. We got fixed cost paid for up front, the $5.6 million. What that $5.6 million is going to do for us is that not only pays for the rehabilitation or some changes that need to be done to Bedford Heights to extend the capacity, it pays for all the construction needs to be done. But also it pays for 9 months of operational costs, the salaries to hire, to train, to do everything for the employees during a transition period, a 9 months transition period. That's what we considered in the 5.6. After that time, it'll go to a $99 a day per diem. And that'll be a 2%, up to a 2% increase, can be reviewed yearly for the adjustments to the adjustments to the per diem as we move forward. The 5.6, like I said, that will start as soon as we get started here, get through the approval process, and I'll get forward here. The transition period. As soon as we get through the approval process, we're looking at 90 to 120 days for Public Works to complete the build out at Bedford Heights. During the course of that time, we're going to be interviewing the employees, getting the staffing that we need brought on board, getting training, getting everything operational, ready to go. As soon as that building is complete at the end of 90 to 120 days, the concept is we will move the House of Corrections. Those inmates which are sentenced misdemeanors, we will take them at that time, which they will go to Bedford Heights, will be probably the most likely place. But we'll be bringing them in, open up Bedford Heights at the same time. From that point forward, then we'll start transitioning district by district, taking over their fresh booking operations coming downtown. And at the end of the 9 months, we will have all their operations will be assumed by the county. Some of the things that this does for us, like I had mentioned before, besides the fact that we're going to regionalize and help Cleveland out, it's also good for the county. It's going to allow us to extend our reentry programming, the comprehensive programming center that I briefed you on out at Euclid. Now, that male facility will be moved out to Bedford Heights, and that'd be a 200-bed facility versus an 83. So we can do a lot more training, a lot more reentry, and that'll be the target group that we have out there. The sentence population, sentence misdemeanors, low-level felons will be out there going through reentry program. And then it allows us to do something that we aren't able to do now, and that is to open up a standalone female facility for reentry programming. And that's what Euclid will become. So we'll transition into that. Ma'am.
So one question on that point. For the Bedford, will you leave some, since that will be the male, will you leave some space for, like you did at the Euclid, even though you're turning it into a female, you're leaving the some space for the
correct for the fresh arrest. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yeah. So it also on that note too, that facility also gives us it's a big step toward our regionalization plan because now I have a drop-off facility on that side of the town. So this was our major hurdle to bring Cleveland on board. They're the biggest, the largest population that we had to deal with. Now we can move forward with the regionalization plan for the rest of the county. In the Bedford Heights lease, which is also the second item that we're talking about, it's a 10-year lease, $1 a year. We take over the utilities, and our part with them is we will take up to 5 inmates from Bedford Heights when they're bringing them in. They know we're going to do up to 500. We're going to do up to $500,000 worth of modifications out there to the facility, and we're going to do the interior maintenance, and the county's going to, or the city's going to do all the exterior maintenance on it. Any questions?
Questions? Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Just a quick question about the Bedford Heights facility. How many inmates can it hold?
After we're done with the construction, we anticipate approximately 200.
200?
Yes.
Okay. And again, just to, I think, clarify, so this will be eventually an all-male facility is the hope for that, and then the Euclid being an all-female facility.
Correct.
And then, are there any plans? You're talking about like regionalization. As far as regionalization goes, are there any plans down the road to perhaps look at other communities that might have, these happen to go out of business, as you say, or cease to exist? Are there any other plans on opposite side of town to pursue?
Yes, what the plan is to, after we get this taken care of, we want to move forward with regionalization. Part of regionalization is we will have to have some drop-off facilities or hubs in a couple locations throughout the county, and every day we will do prisoner runs, basically, and we'll have a transportation team pick them, and we'll bring them back into the county.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Miller.
Did you send us over a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay, so could you circulate it around to everybody? Okay.
Yes.
And did I hear this right, that we're paying for the cost of 5 prisoners per day as part of our rent, as you could say, for the Bedford Heights facility?
Yeah, we're going to allow them to come through, yes, sir. 5 prisoners per day. Up to 5 prisoners a day.
And on average, how long do you think those prisoners would stay?
Most of their prisoners are or they hold them until they make bond or bail and they leave the day or the next day. Very few of them make it to our facility. And normally, if they're going to come once they get to that point, they would be brought to our facility anyway.
And have you done any analysis of how much cost we would incur in serving those 5 prisoners a day?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can tell you exactly what that number is. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine.
I'll email it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, and this is new to me, so maybe my question has already been answered. The Bedford Heights, and I guess I'm looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 slide. City of Cleveland is responsible, let's see, the county is responsible for the interior, city responsible for exterior. That means City of Cleveland?
No, City of Bedford Heights.
Okay.
Right, the maintenance.
And it's $1 per year.
Yes.
So is there any concern? How is that building? Is it
that building's structurally fine. Our Public Works is one out assessed it, and they've made they're bringing it. One of the contract requirements is everything in it even has to be operational, and it's a new facility. It's one of the nicer facilities. It's the second part of the jail was built in 2004, I believe. So they have new systems, fairly new systems. And it's in excellent shape.
Just to follow, so the generator, the safety systems, whatever, air conditioning, all that kind of, they're all rather new and should not need much maintenance.
Correct, and that's all under the cities. They have to maintain all that.
And that's all under the city.
Yes.
And no issue with the Bedford can afford to maintain.
No, ma'am. They have to maintain it. They keep it maintained annually for the police. It's co-located with the police station.
Right. Thanks.
That's actually a good question because the Euclid deal was the one you needed to ask those questions if you were here, because that wasn't so good of a deal.
Maintenance is always an issue.
And it was an ancient facility, and somehow we ended up there. But we made it work, and it's working for us.
And it's a great deal for us.
Any further questions? No? Well, I would like to tell you that the administration, their team, Mr. Bova, Taylor, you, sir, have done a fantastic job. You know, we got elected to come here. That was one of the big things that people talked about was regionalization. And one of the toughest nuts to crack was the dispatch in the jails. And here we are 7 years later moving on this in a real manner that's going to not only save Cleveland money, provide actually benefits to Bedford Heights and obviously what we've already done in Euclid. So it seems that it's working as a whole. And I know it was kind of a jigsaw puzzle to put together, but I'm pretty happy that we're here. The next move will be the regional pickup places, and I know most cities want to get out of the jail business, so we'll have many people knocking on our door, and I'm pretty happy about that. So as moving forward, I'd like to thank the legal team for all of their work on that. And the only question I have, Mr. Ellsworth, is do you have an amendment on 112? Did you?
The amendment for the dollar value?
The dollar amount?
Yes, sir. That should be not to exceed $500,000.
Are we okay with that? We are? Okay. So instead of the 380, that'll be 500,000.
Yes.
Okay. Could I have a motion on resolution 2017-0112 to amend the $380,000 amount to $500,000?
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you. And obviously you want to get moving on these also.
Yes, sir. Request. Second reading.
Okay, let's take resolution 2017-0111. Recommendation for a second reading under suspension.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? And then resolution 2017-0112 as amended to the full council under second reading suspension.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Janine, is that all we have today on that?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Is there miscellaneous business?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. To our public safety staff, from Mrs. Carney to George Taylor to Ken to Bova to the sheriff. as the chairman indicated, this was no small task. I know we've been up, we've been down, we've been all around regarding this issue, regional jail operations, and starting from Euclid to Bedford to now moving forward to Cleveland. You five have done a fantastic job, along with our public works department, to making sure that we're not left on the hook with some of these repair costs. I commend you. We thank you so much, and I think this will have everlasting effects, not only on budgets, but just our communities as a whole. Thank you.
Yes, that can't be said enough. We have honestly fundamentally changed the way business is done on the business end of jails in Cuyahoga County going forward. And that's a great feeling. And I'd like to thank the committee for all their hard work, certainly their patience. For those of us that have been here at the beginning and those that are brand new, that are still catching up, I know it's a jumble at times, but it's something that I'm really quite proud of and happy to certainly be part of. Again, Mr. Dever, we will see you Tuesday, 11:30. Hopefully we'll have that taken care of. I'll discuss further with you as to the timeline, as if we're going to move that quickly or if we're going to let that play out over time. I don't know if there's an insistence or a need to move it forward quickly, but I'll refer to you and your expertise in that area. Again, thank you very much, and we are adjourned.